I am super excited to be here today to read a story to the kids who want to hear me, and I can't imagine that anybody wouldn't want to hear me or see my face today. I'm just kidding. Of course, I miss all of you terribly, and I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're listening to Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, whoever is taking care of you right now. I hope that you are safe, and I hope you're being brave, and I hope that you're helping, and I hope that you're staying connected with your teacher and your classmates the best that you can. This is all going to be over sometime, and we're going to get back to where we can be together. It's just going to take some time, and we want to make sure that we are continuing to be rocket stars through the whole thing. So I wanted to read a story to you that is actually a story that my boys, who are now grown men, liked to hear me read at bedtime when they were growing up. In fact, I think I had to read this story every night for a very long time because I really like this story. But the name of this story is Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. And this story is written by William Steig, and William Steig is one of my favorite authors. He also wrote another favorite book of mine called Brave Irene. Maybe you've heard it before. But anyway, this one's pretty special too, because it's just about this majorly curious donkey who is having a hard time following the rules, and something happens to him. So let's read the story and find out a little bit more about Sylvester and the Magic Pebble by William Steig. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mother and father at Acorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual shapes and colors. Now, I think one of the reasons my boys liked this story so much is because they too liked to collect rocks and pebbles of all shapes and colors. I think many of you do as well. On a rainy Saturday during vacation, he found a quite extraordinary one. It was flaming red, shiny, and perfectly round like a marble. It was, as he was studying this remarkable pebble, he began to shiver, probably from excitement, and the rain felt cold on his back. "I wish it would stop raining," he said. And to his great surprise, the rain stopped. It didn't just stop gradually, like it's raining right now. It didn't just stop gradually. It ceased. The drops vanished on the way down. The clouds disappeared. Everything was dry, and the sun was shining as if the rain had ever existed. It didn't just stop gradually, it ceased. I love that word, ceased, when he picked up that red pebble. I wonder what's going to happen next. Well, in all his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish gratified so quickly. It struck him that magic must be at work, and he guessed that the magic must be in the remarkable-looking red pebble, where indeed it was. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and said, "I wish it would rain again." But nothing happened. When he said the same thing, holding the pebble in his hoof, the sky turned black. There was lightning and a clap of thunder, and the rain came shooting down. So there's a clue. He has to be holding on to that pebble for anything to happen. "What a lucky day this is," thought Sylvester. "From now on, I can have anything I want. My father and mother can have anything they want. My relatives, my friends, and anybody at all can have everything that they want. Oh, that sounds spectacular to me." Well, as he wished the sunshine back in the sky, and he wished a wart on his left hind fetlock would disappear, and it did, and he started home, eager to amaze his father and mother with his magic pebble. He could hardly wait to see their faces. Maybe they wouldn't believe him at first. He was very excited about that magic pebble, so off he trotted to see his family. Uh-oh. As he was crossing the strawberry hill, thinking of some of the many, many things he could wish for, he was startled by a mean, hungry-looking lion that was looking right at him from behind some tall grass. He was frightened. Well, who wouldn't be? If he hadn't been frightened, he could have made the lion disappear because, after all, he had that magic pebble. Or he could have wished himself safe at home with his father and mother. Another thing he could have done if he had been thinking, right, if he wasn't frightened, but we know what happens to our brain when we're frightened. He could have wished the lion would turn into a butterfly or a daisy or a gnat. Yeah, but that's not what he did. He could have wished many things, but he panicked, like often we do when we are frightened, and couldn't think carefully. "I wish I were a rock," he said, and he became a rock. The lion came bounding over, sniffed the rock 100 times, walked around and around and around, and went away, confused, perplexed, puzzled, and bewildered. I saw that little donkey clear as day. Maybe I'm going crazy, the lion thought. Well, there he is. He's a rock, and I don't know if you can see it, but his little pebble is right there. It's not really in his hand because he doesn't have a hand anymore. I'm not sure what he's going to do. And there was Sylvester, a rock on Strawberry Hill with the magic pebble lying right behind him on the ground, and he was unable to pick it up. "Ah, how I wish I were myself again," he thought. But nothing happened. He had to be touching the pebble to make the magic work, but there was nothing he could do about it. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared and he was worried. Being helpless, he felt hopeless. He imagined all the possibilities, and eventually he realized that his only chance of becoming himself again was for someone to find the red pebble and to wish that the rock next to it would be a donkey. Someone would surely find the red pebble. It was so bright and shiny, but what on earth would make them wish that a rock were a donkey? The chance was 1 in a billion at best. Sylvester the rock fell asleep. What else could he do? Night came with many stars. Beautiful picture of stars. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry. Sylvester had never come home later than dinner time. Where could he be? They stayed up all night wondering what had happened, expecting that Sylvester would surely turn up by morning. But he didn't, of course. Mrs. Duncan cried a lot, and Mr. Duncan did his best to soothe her. Both longed to have their dear son with them. "I will never scold Sylvester again as long as I live," said Mrs. Duncan, "no matter what he does." At dawn, they went about inquiring all of their neighbors. So Mama says, "You know what? If he comes back, I'll never yell at him. I'll never get mad at him again." Imagine. They talked to all the children, the puppies, the kittens, the colts, the piglets. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before yesterday. They went to the police. The police could not find their child. Oh, they've been all over the place. So sad. All the dogs in Oatsdale went searching for him. They sniffed behind every rock and tree and blade of grass, into every nook and gully of the neighborhood and beyond, but found not a scent of him. They sniffed the rock on Strawberry Hill, but it smelled like a rock. It didn't smell like Sylvester. Look at all the dogs are out looking for Sylvester, and they're right by that rock, aren't they? But it smells like a rock. After a month of searching the same places over and over again and inquiring of the same animals over and over again, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what to do. They concluded that something dreadful must have happened and that they would probably never see their son again. Oh, sad, though all the time he was less than a mile away. They tried their best to be happy, to go about their usual ways, but their usual ways included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. Oh, they were miserable. Life had no meaning for them anymore. Oh, they look miserable. That's what a miserable face looks like. Have you ever been miserable? Oh. Night followed day, and day followed night, over and over again. Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often, and when he was awake, he was only hopeless and unhappy. He felt he would be a rock forever, and he tried to get used to it. He went into an endless sleep. The days grew colder. Fall came with the leaves changing color. Then the leaves fell and the grass bent on the ground. The seasons are changing, and there's Sylvester, just a sleeping rock. Then it was winter. The winds blew this way and that. It snowed. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food that they had stored up. One day, a wolf sat on the rock that was Sylvester and howled because he was hungry. That wolf is right on the rock that was Sylvester. He's on him. Oh. Then the snow melted. The earth warmed up in the spring sun and things budded. That's what's happening now. Leaves were on the trees again and flowers showed their young faces. A pretty sight. We'll be seeing all that very soon. Can't wait. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. Let's cheer up, he said. Let us try to live again and be happy, even though Sylvester, our angel, is no longer with us. Well, they went up to Strawberry Hill. Can you predict what might happen? Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester up from his deep winter sleep. He wanted to shout, "Mother, Father, it's me, Sylvester, I'm right here!" But of course he couldn't talk. He had no voice. He was stone dumb. He was a rock. They're so close. So close. Well, Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly about while Mrs. Duncan set out the picnic food on the rock. Alfalfa sandwiches and pickled oats and sassafras salad, Timothy compote, the things that donkeys like to eat. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw the red pebble. "What a fantastic pebble!" he exclaimed. "Sylvester would have loved it for his collection." He put the pebble on the rock. They sat down to eat. Sylvester was now as awake as a donkey that was a rock could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt some mysterious excitement. Father," she said suddenly, "I have the strangest feeling that our dear Sylvester is still alive and not far away." I am! Sylvester wanted to shout, but he couldn't. If only he had realized that the pebble was resting on his back, and it was the magic pebble. Oh, if he could only just know this. Oh, so close. "Oh, how I wish he were here with us on this lovely May day," said Mrs. Duncan. Mr. Duncan looked sadly at the ground. "Don't you wish it too, Father?" she said. He looked at her as if to say, "Well, how can you ask such a silly question?" And Mr. and Mrs. Duncan looked at each other with great sorrow. "I wish I were myself again. I wish I were my real self again," thought Sylvester. And in less than an instant, He was! Oh, you can imagine the scene that followed, the embraces, the kisses, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, and the fond exclamations. Oh, it all came together finally. So finally. Mm. Well, if only I could get to the last page to see how it all ends up. Well, when they eventually had calmed down a bit and had gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. Good idea. Someday they may want to use it, but really, for now, what more could they wish for? They had all they needed and all they wanted right at home. And there is a gorgeous picture of the family. And I hope that your family is doing well, and I hope you understand, even though you're not able to see your friends in person, or see your teachers in person, or see me in person, or see Miss Donna in person, or see Miss Chris in person, or Miss Beth, or Miss Carol, or Miss Colette, that we all love you very much, and we miss you very much, and just love your family, and we will see you soon.